In 1537, a Spanish conquistador named Jimenez de Quesada led 900 men into the jungles of South America. They were looking for a city made entirely of gold. Only 166 came back. He returned to the same jungle 30 years later with 2,000 men. 30 survived. And still, he never found it. The city was called El Dorado, and for over 200 years, it killed every single person who went looking for it. But here's the darkest part of the story. El Dorado was never a city. It was never even a place. And the people who invented the legend never meant for anyone to go looking. Long before Spanish boots ever touched South American soil, there was a tribe called the Muisca, living in the highlands of what is now Colombia. When a new chief was appointed, they performed a ritual unlike anything in the world. The new king was stripped naked. His entire body was covered in sticky resin and then coated from head to toe in gold dust. He became literally a golden man. He was then placed on a raft, surrounded by offerings of gold and emeralds, and floated to the center of Lake Guatavita. There, in front of thousands of watching people, he dove into the water. The gold washed off his body and sank to the bottom of the lake. It was a religious offering, a ceremony of humility, the king giving away the most valuable thing he could touch to the gods beneath the water. For the Muisca, gold had no material value. It was spiritual, sacred. Then the Spanish arrived. When conquistadors heard about this ritual from the natives, they became convinced there was an entire city somewhere in the jungle overflowing with gold. They called it El Dorado, the Golden One, and they started marching into the jungle to find it. In 1537, Jimenez de Quesada and his conquistadors landed in Colombia, lured by tales of El Dorado. They went deeper into unknown territory, and many lost their lives. Only 166 men survived. 900 had started the quest. But Quesada didn't stop. He returned in 1569. After a 3-year expedition, only 30 people survived from approximately 2,000 explorers. That's 1,970 men dead for a city that didn't exist. In the 1560s, a new expedition moved into the Amazon. The commander was Pedro de Ursua. His second-in-command, Lope de Aguirre, went insane during the march. He murdered Ursua, declared himself Prince of Peru, and led a rebellion against the Spanish crown. He was eventually captured and executed. Then came Sir Walter Raleigh, who made 2 trips to search for El Dorado. During his second trip in 1617, he sent his own son up the Orinoco River. The expedition was a disaster. His son was killed in battle. When Raleigh heard the news, the survivor who told him was so terrified of his reaction that the man went into his cabin on the ship and killed himself. Raleigh returned to England empty-handed. King James had him beheaded. In 1740, the governor of a Venezuelan province led yet another attempt. It resulted in the deaths of hundreds. 200 years, thousands dead, 0 gold. By the 1500s, the Spanish had actually found Lake Guatavita, the real lake from the Muisca ceremony. They tried to drain it in 1545. They lowered its level enough to find hundreds of pieces of gold along the lake's edge. But the treasure in the deeper water was completely beyond their reach. Centuries later, the obsession continued. In 1801, the naturalist Alexander von Humboldt calculated that if 1,000 Muisca had thrown 5 objects a year into the lake over a century, there would be approximately $300 million worth of treasure at the bottom. That number sparked an entirely new generation of treasure hunters. In 1898, a company actually succeeded in draining the lake. They found gold objects in the mud, but before they could retrieve anything properly, the mud hardened in the sun like concrete. The company went bankrupt. The lake refilled. The gold is still there, at the bottom of a lake in Colombia. Confirmed. documented, and completely unreachable. It's almost as if the lake, like the legend, was designed to show you exactly what you want and then take it away. Here's what makes El Dorado unlike any other lost city story. Troy was real. Schliemann found it. Atlantis might be real. We're still looking. But El Dorado? For the Muisca people, gold was not a symbol of wealth. It was a spiritual offering to the gods. They placed no material value on it at all. The entire legend was built on a misunderstanding. The Spanish saw a king covered in gold and thought, there must be a city full of it. The Muisca saw a king covered in gold and thought, he is giving everything valuable away to become worthy of leading us. Two completely opposite meanings, same image. And because of that misunderstanding, thousands of men walked into a jungle and never came out. Fathers sent their sons. Kings sent their armies. Explorers gave their entire lives, all chasing something that was never lost because it never existed as they imagined it. The real El Dorado wasn't gold. It was greed, dressed up as a dream. The lake is still there. The gold is still at the bottom. Colombia has actually declared Lake Guatavita a protected site. No one is allowed to excavate it anymore. The Muisca artifacts that were found over the centuries are now in a museum in Bogota, the Gold Museum, one of the most visited museums in South America. Thousands of people go every year to see what others died searching for. They walk in through the front door, they look at the gold under glass, and they leave. No jungle, no death, no obsession. Maybe that's the real lesson of El Dorado. The things that destroy us were never as far away or as golden as we imagined. Subscribe. Next week, we go somewhere even older and even darker.